What is up, guys? Alex from ANAK Creates here. Welcome back to another video. And today, before we get into the video, I just wanted to say a quick thank you to all of you for watching videos. We finally passed 1,000 subscribers here on the channel. So I appreciate each and every one of you, every single comment, every single like, every single bit of feedback, every question, all of the things that you guys do for me and support the channel. I really, really appreciate it. So thank you for being part of the first 1,000 subscribers, and here's to the next 1,000 and beyond. I appreciate all of your support. I also just want to say that I'm working on some really cool new projects and some great content for you guys coming up. So I might be uploading a little more sporadically as I put that through development and really work on it, but I promise you it will be worth it. So, you know, there's still going to be lots of videos. Just maybe not quite as many as there have been over the last 6 months. But anyway, I promise it will be worth it. Now, on to the rest of the video. So today we're going to talk about breaking into the industry. And this is actually a topic that I get asked about a lot. There are a ton of different ways to go about breaking into the industry, how to make your name for yourself, depending on what you're doing, whether you're into engineering or you're trying to be a producer, whether you want to work at a big studio, whether you want to do freelance work, just work on small projects, whether you want to be a musician, whether you want to be an artist or a session musician. There's just so many different options, but the one thing that is always consistent is the networking aspect of this. So recently on the podcast, I took this exact theme and I was talking to my buddy Jay Riehl about this. Now, Jay is one of my earliest mentors in my music career, and he came up in the industry years before I even did. And when he was doing it, technology was very different than it is today. However, the breaking into the industry networking part of it and the people skills has not changed at all, no matter how technology has changed. So we talked all about that over on the podcast in a two-part series because we talked for so long about it. There's just so much there. So if you're interested in that and a ton of other stuff about the music industry and making music and just different approaches, all sorts of different stuff is over on the ANAK Creates podcast. Wherever you listen to your podcasts, you can find it. But in today's video, I'm going to share a more of a cut down edited clip of some of the key parts of our conversation that I thought would be really relevant to put here. If you want to hear the whole conversation, as it is packed full of tons of knowledge, then go check out the links in the description below to go listen to the whole episode. And while you're there, subscribe to the podcast and check out the other episodes that I have, because there's tons of great knowledge. If you're interested in this, then you will be interested in the other stuff that I put over there on the podcast. And finally, before we dive into the clip, I just want to ask you a question. Comment down below if you listen or watch podcasts here on YouTube, or are you somebody that just listens to them while you're going for a walk on a different podcast player? I've been considering making a podcast YouTube channel specifically for the video content for my podcast, which currently I host nowhere. So let me know if you're interested in that, or if you watch other podcasts here on YouTube and what you like about those podcasts in their video format. Now, on to the conversation with Jay.
Sorry. On that note, I'm going to have a little sips here. Sorry. He's going to have to edit that bit out anyway.
To me, the way that I see it, the journey of trying to get into the industry and the personal relationships are kind of the most important thing, and are almost more important than they've ever been, because technology is so vast now. Mm-hmm. When you were starting, it was a lot more of, well, the only way in is go to a studio because they're the only ones that can afford recording equipment.
Everyone had to be in the same room.
Right.
That was it.
And you know, not everybody could afford a tape machine to record stuff professionally. Yeah. Nowadays, you can buy a MacBook Air with GarageBand that's already preloaded, and you're off to the races. You technically can make good sounding music with just that. I mean, depending on what you're doing. And I mean, you know, you can do it with a phone, with an iPad.
Yeah, I know, it's crazy, isn't it?
Right?
It's really, it has changed a lot.
Right?
It really has, yeah.
But to me, what has not changed is that the personal relationships and the different steps to actually get recognition and prove yourself and work your way up with, you know, internships and whatever whatever you're trying to get networking, that kind of stuff is still just as important as it ever was, frankly.
It's actually the most important, I think, the most important thing.
Totally.
It's more important than the gear. It's more important than the technology, really. Mm-hmm. If you don't have the contacts that can lead you somewhere or help you, and not that they all always have to help you. It's not about that. But if you don't have the network in place, you got nothing. Like you got no work. Nobody knows about you. Nobody cares about you until you're in their eyes or face, right?
Right. And so, yourself as a musician, as a producer, as an engineer, as you kind of came up in the industry in all three and more of these avenues, frankly, people always say it's who you know, and the people you know, that's how you get anywhere. Can you speak a little bit to that? What does that actually mean? Like what networking, who you know, what does that mean?
It's true. Well, there's different avenues of that too. I mean, there are, now again, depending on what you're discussing, whether it's the musicianship or whether it's the production or whether it's the engineering. Of course, each of those, I think, networks give you different things. When I first started, I started playing with my brother's band. I was 15, couldn't even drive at the time. And started playing professionally on weekends and making money at it. And then, to be honest with you, I think they were just waiting until I was 16 so that I could drive all them around because I couldn't drink.
Right.
But then they could. Oh, Jay, I'll drive.
That's why you made me do that.
See?
Came down the pipe.
It passed down to you. So there's the first and most important lesson. So what happened was I started in the clubs and we started playing. We were doing gigs and we were doing all that sort of stuff. And then my brother, unannounced to me, had called a gentleman by the name of Terry Sumption. Now, he's no longer with us anymore, but he was a country artist in the country genre that he had some hits on the radio and he was doing well. He was well known and well liked. But my brother thought Jay should be doing other bands than this one, which I didn't know he did this. But he called Terry. He didn't tell me, but he invited Terry to come and see me play. And so I remember we were playing the gig, and all of a sudden I looked over and I went, oh my God, Terry Sumption just walked into the building. Of course, on the break, I went over and talked to him and introduced myself. My brother did too. We all went over and the band did, hi Terry, we love your music. Right. And, anyway, at the end of the night, Terry called me over and he said, hey, I need a drummer. Would you be interested in being my drummer? Yes, I would be. And so I said yes. And my brother told me after. Oh, okay. I called him and you should explore this. Right. Don't worry about us. We're just doing it for fun and for the weekend anyway, but you're not. So take the opportunity. So I did. All of a sudden, now I was working with a whole other group of musicians that were on another rung of the ladder than me. Right. Like these are guys that are A players. And what happened was once I got in with that band and really got to know the guys really well, this is where that networking starts. A lot of times you get referrals from other players. It's like, so all of a sudden Doug Johnson would get a phone call from another artist, another artist that was, in the industry doing things, and they need a drummer. And of course they'd call Doug, and Doug's on the gig as well, Doug Johnson, and the steel player. Mm-hmm. And of course they'd say, we need a drummer. And then Doug would say, hey, call Jay. Right. Because Jay he sings high harmonies and he plays good, his pocket's good and whatnot. But I only got that referral because I was now a friend of Doug Johnson. Right. So that opened up a whole door of being able to have access to greater players than me. You become sort of part of that world. Yeah. And then that also then goes, and then once you play for that guy, and he's talking to somebody else, like, call Jay, because he sings high harmony and blah, blah, blah. Another big part of that at the same time is obviously, call Jay, he's good. He's got good pocket. Can sing high harmonies. Like he's got other talents besides just drumming in that way. But at the same time, they're also referring you because we like hanging with Jay and playing with Jay. So another massive aspect of this is that they enjoyed your company. That's more important. Actually, I think it is. It is. I really, and that's a big thing for engineering and producing. Because frankly, this just replace players with other artists and engineers and producers. Yeah. And the same that exact same thing goes exactly for engineering and producing and it's true. Any other piece of this. Like the music industry in that way, you maybe are networking with different people. Yep. To get to where you want to go. The hang is way more important. I'll never forget a quick story. I was working with a gentleman by the name of Jim Witter, and this was after Terry. And I remember we were in a van, and it was my first cross Canada tour. We were crossing over from Manitoba into Saskatchewan, and it was 3 a.m, and I had been sleeping already. I said, "Oh, I'm up. I had a good nap. I'll drive." And at that time, the artist that we were working for, Jim Witter, he said, "Well, I'll run shot. I'm kind of awake now. I'll ride shotgun for you." So we went and got a Tim Hortons a coffee, and then the two of us sat in the front. Everyone else was sleeping. He said this to me, and I'll never forget this. He said, "Jay, I'd much rather work with a good player with a great attitude than the world's greatest player who's an a-hole." He says it's not worth it.
On that same note, when you're an intern and when you're coming up in a studio from an engineering and production perspective, same kind of a thing. I always found that the best interns that I would train are the ones that maybe didn't know as much as some other ones.
Because you can mold them.
But I can teach them a lot of stuff, but I can't teach them personality. And if it's like I'm fighting your personality, or you're just trying to be ego driven and like prove yourself to these artists and whatever, I don't want you in the room. But if you've got that part of it on and people like you being around, they'll forgive the odd little mistake, and they'll be, I'm willing to train and spend a little bit more time with you to help you get the technical skills that you need.
Right.
But if I can't hang with you, and if I can't bear being around you to train you,
it's never going
to work.
Yeah.
And nobody's perfect. So there's going to be training. There's going to be other things involved.
Yeah.
It's so true. Like you have to be able to deal with them socially.
Yeah.
Above all else. Cause I mean, frankly, when I used to come and hang out at the studio, I didn't know anything. When
you were green then. Yeah,
I was pretty green, but yet obviously I must have made a good enough impression that it was like, we can train this guy, but he's not like, we're not hating ourselves having him around. So sure, keep coming back.
He made really good coffee, by the way.
That's step one.
Yeah. First thing I remember, that was our first lesson. Okay, first thing you got to know in the studio is how to make a good cup of coffee.
Yep.
I think we actually went through that.
Totally. And the funniest thing is that is 100% true. If I can trust you to get the right coffee for me, then I'm willing to trust you with more stuff.
Other things.
But if I can't trust you to get my coffee right, how am I supposed to trust you with my clients or with the cables or that the mics are going to work?
Are you sure it was in phase?
Explode the console by accident. I can't trust you with anything else.
That's a good point.
And that was the biggest lesson that I used to teach interns when they first started working with me.
That's awesome.
Yeah, I know. It comes full circle.
Well, we were talking about that earlier, the networking, and that's funny.
That is it for this video, guys. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed that clip with my buddy Jay Riehl. If you want to listen to the whole conversation, which again, packed full of knowledge, I have that all linked in the description below. It was a 2-part episode because we talked so long, but they're both out now, so you can just kind of binge both of them if you'd like. And be sure to check out the other episodes that I have over there on the podcast, because it's different content that I have here, but I think if you enjoyed this, then you will definitely enjoy the podcast and the other content that I have over there. And again, leave a comment down below if you listen or watch podcasts here on YouTube, kind of like what you just saw. I'm debating starting a YouTube channel for the podcast. So let me know your thoughts in the comments below, or anything else related to this topic and this video, or anything else you want me to discuss. It might show up here on the channel or on the podcast. So be sure to subscribe to both if you haven't. Again, thank you so much for 1,000 subscribers. I'm over the moon. But anyway, that is it for this video, guys. Thank you so much for watching. I will see you in the next video. Till then, always be creating.